Iowa basketball fans, Caitlin Clark protests Taylor Stremlow technical. Iowa women's basketball player Taylor Stremlow was given a technical foul during the Hawkeyes game against Fairfield on Sunday at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Stremlow blocked a Fairfield player's shot late in the second quarter, then gestured slightly toward the player as she celebrated the strong defensive play. Officials felt that Stremlow's reaction merited a technical foul. Stremlow and her teammates didn't seem fazed by the ref's decision. Coach Jan Jensen was surprised by the call, but she and Stremlow were seen smiling as Fairfield shot free throws. Decide for yourself if Stremlow deserved the technical. Also, former Iowa star Caitlin Clark was among the many Hawkeye fans who didn't like the call. No one expected a mid-season Saturday afternoon game to become the spark of something much louder, a roar that would echo through Carver Hawkeye Arena and beyond. But on this particular December day in Iowa City, fans arrived bundled in gold and black without knowing they were walking into the beginning of a movement. The matchup itself, Iowa versus Wisconsin, was supposed to be routine. The Hawkeyes were heavy favorites, home crowd energized, and Caitlin Clark already warming up with the kind of intensity that made even casual fans lean forward. But behind the curtain, something else was brewing. The talk before tip-off wasn't about records or rankings. It was a single moment from the last game, a technical foul called on Wisconsin guard Taylor Stremlow after a harmless exchange with a referee. A foul that, despite happening days earlier, had struck a nerve for many fans who had grown weary of questionable officiating across women's basketball. The clip had gone viral. Stremlow, always composed, raised her hand to acknowledge a common foul on the previous possession. She said a few words, not angry, not loud, and suddenly the whistle blew again. Technical foul. Her face fell in disbelief. Her teammates stared in confusion. Even some Iowa fans watching at home had paused, wondering, what exactly did she do? The moment had become the subject of debates, podcasts, fan boards, and more. But no one seemed as bothered as Caitlin Clark, and no one expected what she would do next. Chapter 1. The buzz before tip-off. Caitlin walked onto the court for warm-ups, but something in her demeanor was different. She usually smiled at little kids leaning over the rail or chatted with teammates in between jumpers. Today, though, she was reserved, focused, but also quietly simmering. She stopped at half-court, took a breath, and scanned the crowd. It had been building for months, a rising tide of players and coaches across the league frustrated by inconsistent whistles, quick technicals, and the way emotion, especially from women athletes, was often interpreted as confrontation. Stremlow's technical was just the latest example. And Caitlin, after watching the clip a dozen times, had decided she was done staying silent. As fans settled in, murmurs spread through the arena. Several sections of students were holding homemade signs. Let them play. Emotion is not equal to technical. Justice for Stremlow. There were even a few posters with a cartoon referee holding a whistle labeled fragile. No one knew who organized it. But Clark saw it and nodded. Looks like they beat us to it, Iowa assistant coach Jan Jensen whispered to her as they walked toward the bench. Caitlin didn't smile. But her eyes gleamed. They're not wrong. Chapter 2. The moment that shifted energy. The game tipped off fast. Iowa jumped out to an early 10-2 lead, fueled by 2 deep threes from Clark. She was sharp, but every time the whistle blew, even for something mundane, she glanced at the nearest referee with a kind of measured scrutiny. The crowd noticed. They applauded harder when her plays were clean. They groaned louder when calls were questionable. And when Stremlow checked in for Wisconsin midway through the first quarter, something unexpected happened. The entire arena stood. It wasn't in mockery. It wasn't sarcasm. It was applause, real, thunderous applause. Even Stremlow froze for a moment, eyes wide, almost overwhelmed. She had never expected Iowa fans, to stand for her. Caitlin was already jogging to the free throw line but paused long enough to clap along, nodding her head in recognition. She jogged by Stremlow and offered a quick tap on the arm. A referee immediately blew his whistle. Everyone tensed. But he was just signaling a substitution. Caitlin exhaled. Fans did too. The unspoken tension, would they tee her up for something so simple? hung in the air like humidity before a storm. Chapter 3. The Spark. The second quarter was when things truly shifted. Clark drove to the lane for a foul call that didn't come. She turned, palms up, frustration clear but contained. She didn't yell. She didn't point. She simply, as every player does, looked for an explanation. A referee stepped in, jaw set, ready to escalate. The crowd saw it instantly. And oh, someone shouted from the lower bowl. "Don't you dare!" yelled another. A low rumble began. It grew. And within seconds, the entire arena was chanting, "Let them play. Let them play." The chant bounced off the rafters. The referee froze mid-stride, second thoughts flickering across his face. Caitlin backed away on purpose, palms raised, making it abundantly clear she wanted no smoke, no technical, no spectacle. Just basketball. Jensen called to the referee from the sideline, calm but firm, "You don't need to do this. They're just communicating." The ref hesitated. The whistle stayed in his hand. And then he turned and resumed the game. The arena erupted like Iowa had just hit a buzzer beater. Clark had felt anger before. But this was different. This was unity. "I think they're trying to protect you," her teammate warned with a smirk as they lined up for the next possession. Caitlin shook her head. "They're protecting the game." Chapter 4. A statement without words. Halftime arrived with Iowa leading, but the score seemed irrelevant. The arena was buzzing about something else entirely. During the break, student sections unfurled new banners. "Respect women's emotion. Stop the quick texts. We stand with Taylor." Then something unusual happened, an impromptu arena-wide moment of silent protest. No one planned it. It simply spread, row by row, fan by fan, until all 15,000 people sat quietly in their seats for a full minute while the video board dimmed. The silence was more powerful than any chant. Stremlow sat on the bench with her warm-up draped over her shoulders, blinking hard like she was trying not to cry. Wisconsin's coach leaned over to her. "You okay?" "Yeah," she whispered. "But I've never seen anything like this." Iowa's players saw it too. Clark, seated across the court, felt something shift in her chest. She had always believed basketball was emotional, should be emotional. And seeing an opposing player lifted up by her own home crowd? That was the game at its best. Chapter 5. The third quarter fire. The second half began with a different kind of energy, tense but hopeful. And the moment the first questionable whistle of the half came, a charge called on a Wisconsin player that looked more like a block, Clark calmly approached the referee. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just deliberately. "Can you explain it?" she asked. The ref paused, squared his shoulders, and actually answered her, clearly, respectfully. Caitlin nodded and jogged back on defense. The crowd roared as if Iowa had hit another three. It wasn't about the call.